Hey, happy Sunday. Today we are going to be in James 1:12 through 15. But before we go there, I wanted to talk a little bit and tell the story of Job because I think it ties really well into James' message today. If you don't know, story of Job is where God is sitting there and up comes the devil and says to him, hey, is there anyone on earth that's really good? And then God says, well, look at my servant Job. He's really good. And then the devil says, well, that's because you have a hedge around him. So if you remove that, then he would be like any other man. So God removes the hedge, and then what happens is Job has all these 7 sons and these 3 daughters and all of this wealth, right? Well, he loses it all. The kids are killed when a wind crashes the house, and then all of a sudden all of his cattle, everything goes. And then physically he's attacked. He gets boils on himself, so his skin is disgusting. His wife is even like, ugh. And then all his friends, he's got 3 friends, and they come in and they all say, what did you do to take God off, right? What's going on here that all this evil is coming upon you? And Job keeps defending, saying, I didn't do anything. It's just happening. But then eventually Job becomes overconfident and starts to say, look, I'm righteous. This is not me, right? And then in comes a prophet of God, Elihu. And Elihu, it seems, has been there the whole time because he says to these men, hey, I know I'm younger than you, but I have a few things to say. And then he goes on to say things about the Lord, that it really is about giving honor to God in all things, that God doesn't come down to us and tempt us with evil, doesn't get into us that way, that when that happens, that's the time to really turn to God and pray, because we need to seek God in all things, not ourselves, as the men were saying, and then also as Job started to say. Then God comes in and he says, he confirms what Elihu says, and he basically tells Job that he needs to be humble. And God does a beautiful speech about who am I, right? And who is in the snow, and who is in the frost, and who is in the stars, and who is in Orion, right? Basically saying, like, you think that you are more than the Creator. And he's ticked. And then Job humbles himself and says, I'm so sorry, Lord. What have I done? I have no knowledge. Who am I, right? And then God forgives Job. And then God rebukes Job's friends, saying, Job humbled himself. It isn't the act of defiance that really ticks me off. It's when you can't say that you've done something wrong. When you can't say to me, God, what did I do? You cannot hide things from me. Why would you ever try to hide this? Then ultimately, when they offer a sacrifice, Job does it, then God forgives them. And then what happens is Job's abundance is restored. He's got his 7 sons. He'll have 3 more daughters. They're going to be very beautiful. They're going to gain in the inheritance. And that's because Job is humble. He doesn't need his name to always carry down, right? And then ultimately after all that, we're restored. But what does that have to do with James in the New Testament? What does the old have to do with the new? Everything is what I would tell you. Let's go to James 1:12 through 15, and let me read it, and then we'll talk about it. So, blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. Let no man say that when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lusts and enticed. And then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. So, what James, the Lord's brother here, is so beautifully telling us is that God doesn't tempt you with evil, right? God doesn't move you into a place that you end up like sinning in order to honor God, right? And that sounds like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But Proverbs 19:3 tells us that, let me look at it, that a man's own foolishness leads him away, yet his heart rages against the Lord. And isn't this true, right? We ourselves, right, sometimes say to God, why did you make me this way, right? I want to fit in. I don't want to be different. I want to absolutely be part of the crowd. Why did you do this? Sometimes what we see in ourselves as weaknesses or sin, we blame God for, right? And that in itself doesn't work. And that's what James is saying here. And that's what the book of Job tells us, that God is our source. God is our strength, and we don't need to have a means to an end to please God. If it's about honoring God in service, there's always going to be a way. He is the way maker, so he's going to find a way. There's no condition, there's no sin, there's no circumstance, there's no anything that can keep you from turning to God, and then God can make any weakness into a strength. And so our anger, when we ourselves try to control our situations, when we try and make things better, when we try and give ourselves what Job did, this confidence of, I'm good, I'm set. No. Humble yourself before the Lord. When you are a servant of God, when you love God, when he is your everything, there's nothing wrong with humbling yourself before him. Bring your sin to him, just as you bring your worry, just as you bring your concerns, just as you bring your prayers. We have to get away from this idea of religion, because religion, that's not Jesus's thing. Jesus is all about the relationship. Jesus Christ wants a deep and personal relationship with you, and through that you gain a deep and personal relationship with God, right? And the Holy Spirit. And then when you're connected to your higher power and you're serving your higher source, that's when you can endure temptation of anything in your life that has held you back, that has held you down, that has held you from who God has designed you to be. You can endure. And what does God tell us? When you do that, he's going to give you the crown of life. So thank you to God. Glory always to God. Praise to Jesus Christ, who has given us our life and salvation. And also, we don't talk enough about the Holy Spirit, my comforter, my counselor, my friend, my encourager, my edifier. Everything to me, my judge, everything, the Holy Spirit, God and Jesus Christ, the Godhead, who leads us and does not tempt us with evil, but gives us a way to honor them in all that we do. Happy Sunday. Chatting at Cheesman. Let's do the Macarena day. Happy Sunday.